Hello everybody, I'm Dr. Niharika Saxena and I am Assistant Professor in Apollo College of Veterinary Medicine, Jaipur. And today we have started a MOOC course on this for veterinary public health and epidemiology. So we will study the meat hygiene topic first, and the topic is meat hygiene. I'll just start the slideshow. One second. One second. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so today we'll study the topic of antemortem inspection. First of all, antemortem means before death. We do the antemortem inspection before we die or the animal dies. And inspection of live animals and birds prior to being slaughtered. All the livestock is it should have antemortem inspection. Any जितने भी livestock they have to be receive antemortem inspection. The inspection is performed by a veterinarian or a meat inspector under veterinary supervision. So you can just go on and give antemortem to anybody. You have to be a meat inspector and a veterinarian. And the antemortem examination should be done within 24 hours of slaughter and repeated if slaughter has been delayed by over a day. So concerns are public health, and animal welfare. So first of all, you have to screen all animals destined to slaughter to separate diseased and suspected animals for further detailed examination to ensure that animals are properly rested and that proper clinical disease diagnosis and judgment is obtained. To reduce contamination on the cleaning floor, you have to make sure that the contamination on the cleaning floor is also clean so that the dirty animals are separated from the diseased animal if required by regulation. Then you have to make PME more efficient, post-mortem examination, and to identify the notifiable and reportable animal diseases, to identify sick animals and those treated with drugs like antibiotics, chemotherapeutic agents, insecticides, and pesticides. And also to ensure that injured animals are receive emergency slaughter who are in pain or suffering, and that animals are treated humanely. Antemortem inspection card has to have the following: owner's name, number of animals, species, sex of animal, time, date, clinical signs, and also the reason why animal was held. Also, the signature of inspector is very imperative for this. So the procedure of antemortem inspection is identification of animal and collection of details regarding place of purchase and origin. Animal to be inspected both in rest and in motion on both the sides, examined preferably in daylight. Facilities required are liarage, identification of live animals, isolation, pen and a crush, assistant staff. So these are the abnormalities that we have to check out in the antemortem examination. For example, respiration, behavior, gait, posture, etc., color, odor, temperature, etc. Then, what are the abnormalities in respiration? For example, the frequency of respiration has changed, and there are some respiration anomalies like roaring, snoring. So, if the breathing pattern is different from normal, the animal is segregated as suspect. That it means it is suspected for the disease. So animal is associated with pain in legs, chest, etc. Slow wobble gait, it means it has a septicemia diseases. Walking in circles, as for example, there's a sheep, you must have seen in clinics that the goat is walking in circles and sheep is walking in circles. So it can be sonorous cerebralis or listeriosis. And stiff gait due to traumatic pericarditis, and it can also be due to steeplechase, which I have not mentioned here. It can also be a steeplechase. So abnormal posture, tucked up abdomen, or the animal may stand with an extended head and stretched out feet. The animal may also be laying and have its head turned along its side. When it's unable to rise, it is often called downer. Cow sits on the flank and head rests on the flank. Milk fever. जैसे cow अगर मतलब अपने flank पे head rest करती है, the cow sits on the flank and rests the head on the flank. So it means it might be suspected for milk fever. If it has a frog-like posture, that means it has the obturator muscle paralysis and bilateral dysplasia. Kicking at belly is acute pain. Abnormalities in behavior. Walking in circles ensure abnormal gait or posture, pushing its head against the wall, charging at various objects and acting aggressively, showing a dull and anxious expression in the eyes. So the abnormal appearance. Healthy animals, glossy with smooth hair coat, good indicator. we must check the what is the level of hydration. You can see in this picture how the animal is so dehydrated, and skin lesions are so there, bruising and tear, and emaciation, cachexia, rough and starring hairs. You can see the hairs are very rough of the animal, so it means the color texture of the hair coat should be glossy with smooth hair coat, and the hydration level should be good. But if there is abnormal, there can be following mentioned conditions that might be present in the animal. Then there are abnormalities in structure, for example, swellings, abscesses, enlarged joints, umbilical swelling due to hernia or omphalophlebitis, enlarged sensitive udder indicative of mastitis, enlarged jaw like lumpy jaw, bloated abdomen. Discharges from the nose, excessive salivation, FMD, rinderpest, etc. Ocular discharge comes from conditions like there is a discharge from eye. It comes from blue tongue, bovine barrel diarrhea, or it can be Marek's disease. Or if there is protrusion from the rectum, for example, the rectum is prolapsed or uterus prolapse, so that causes the protrusion from the rectum. And protruding from the vagina, it can be due to prolapsed uterus. Growth on the eye and blood diarrhea. So these are the temperatures of the animals. We must check the temperature of the animal. For example, cattle has 38.5, buffalo 38.2, sheep 39, and goat 39.5, horse 38, pig has 39. So degrees Celsius. So all these temperatures are degrees Celsius, and the body temperature may vary of 1 degree above or 1 degree below. So that's not a big issue. But these are the temperatures of the animals that are in degrees Celsius. Abnormalities in temperature. Rise in temperature, first indicator of communicable disease. Moribund animals, subnormal temperature. Sheep has the greatest daily fluctuation of temperature. For example, cattle sheep is more than 40.5 degrees Celsius, pigs more than 41 degrees Celsius. Abnormal color, black areas on horses and swine. Here you can see these are the lesions of diamond skin disease on the pig. Here you can see on the skin of the pig, there is diamond skin disease. And red areas on light crescent. Here you can see diamond skin disease. Okay. And there are black areas on horses and swine. Red areas on light colored skin is inflammation. Dark blue areas on the skin or udder, gangrene. Abnormal color. Odor of an abscess, medicinal odor, ketosis, stinkweed odor or acetone odor, putrid bronchitis, putrefactive odor, antemortem decisions, fit for slaughter, suspect detained, delayed postponed, unfit for slaughter. So which are the ones are fit for slaughter? Free from the disease and conditions, fit for human food to be released for slaughter. Question whether the animal is affected by a disease or condition described in the regulations. To segregate those animals with abnormal sign into suspect pen for further observation. So there is delayed slaughter in the exhaustion, transit fever and transport, unfit for animals, immature animals, advanced pregnancy, recent parturition, infectious and contagious disease. When animals they are suffering from such diseases which doesn't render the meat suitable for human consumption are being slaughtered. What happens is with chronic conditions there is obturator paralysis, postpartum paraplegia, benign superficial tumors. And then we have the animals should be slaughtered immediately if they are in emergency. For example, emergency conditions. For example, there is acute pain or it is slaughtered on the farm humanely. For example, excessive bruising, fractures, bloat, uterine prolapse. These conditions they require emergency slaughter. So these are the rules that antemortem inspection should be done, and one must be careful that it has to be the animal has to have a veterinary certificate. Only those should be have the antemortem slaughter, antemortem inspection. So categories of animals for emergency slaughter are alive but in moribund state. That means that the carcass stiffens immediately after slaughter. So that is why the judgment is total condemnation. And in anthrax, we take the blood smear from the ear vein. Okay, so and then dead and incarcerated is blood smear anthrax, coldness in extremities and tympanitis in cattle. Death has not been recent. Carcass of dead animals unwholesome, liable to rapid decomposition, and fit only for inedible rendering. Dead and eviscerated. Judgment is difficult. Carcass surface has a white appearance. Lack of proper setting. Cattle, flexion of pollinis with a brownish red coloration of flesh. And judgment for carcass of emergency animal. It does not show any evidence of disease, negative bacteriological test. Sets look like normal in every way. Any signs of postmortem changes is condemned. Okay. So, what are the diseases and anomalies observed during antemortem inspection? First, it is suspect. In suspect, we have actinobacillosis, mycosis, and mastitis, ringworm, and mange. So, all these are under suspect. All the animals who have these conditions, they are treated under suspect. And then we have the unfit. Unfit have like rabies, FMD, rinderpest, TB, anthrax, black quarter, tetanus, listeriosis, fluorine, and selenium poisoning. These conditions are treated under unfit. So calves, if the calves, small calves have the, what happens is the calves, the musculature is not very well developed. So that is why due to immaturity, they are generally taken as unfit and generally they are not taken up for meat. So in some countries, although it is also taken as delicacy, but it does not have much meat. So in India, generally it is taken as unfit due to its immaturity of the muscles. So in the ringworm, it is taken as suspect. Calf diphtheria and vice cores have the unfit. And in sheep, there is sheep scab, which is taken as unfit, FMD unfit, caseous lymphadenitis unfit and localized suspect, and GID is unfit, and terotoxemia is unfit. In swine erysipelas suspect, atrophic rhinitis suspect, gut edema suspect, hog curra unfit, rabies unfit, actinomycosis of the udder suspect, salmonellosis unfit. Ornithosis unfit, Ranicates unfit, and infectious bronchitis unfit, and infectious laryngotracheitis unfit, and infectious coryza unfit, and coccidiosis unfit. So there are also many taboos. Criteria for site selection. First, we should make sure that it should be away from urban dwelling because it is a slaughterhouse. It should be away from airfields and should be close to livestock markets and should have provided sufficient area of land for treatment of effluents like byproducts. And religious taboos and sentiments of community to prevent objection or slaughter of any species. Consumer preferences for determining whether single or multi-species abattoir is established. Separate slaughter hall, hanging rails, storage facilities, a level area with gentle slope be there. Subsoil should be firm, मतलब subsoil firm होनी चाहिए, मतलब it should be firm subsoil and availability of continuous electricity, पानी, transport, communication ये सब होना चाहिए. Site should be free from pollution, smoke, dust and odors. Then we have the lineage. Hey, what is a lineage? Lineage is an area that provides the rest to the animal that arrives at the abattoir for slaughter. Okay, you rest the animal in there. And in cattle, it is the space is 1.75 meter square. In pig, it is 0.35 meter square. Sheep and goat 0.25 meter square. And bricks or lateral walls are 1.5 meter. So, the slaughterhouse, we have the stunning pen where the stunning is done and bleeding rail is 5 into 3.5 meter. Bleeding is performed by severing the carotid arteries and jugular vein with a sharp knife. Flaying should be 2 to 4 flaying cradles in cattle slaughterhouse and the length of such cradles should be 1.8 meter, width is 35 centimeter. And the flat iron bars of the rehearing rail should be 75 into 12 millimeter. And steel pipes should be used to make the dressing rails. Walls of the floor, the slope of the floor should be not less than 10 centimeter for every meter, 6 meter, and also the inner wall should be of glazed tiles to the height of 2 meter. Light should be 540 lux at inspection areas, 20-foot candle, 220 lux in other areas. This is important. Electricity and water is 5 to 8 kilowatt hour. For cattle is the power requirement and water requirement is 700 to 1000 liter per cattle, 400 to 600 liter per pigs, 250 to 400 liter per sheep and goats. So we also have the trippery room. So what are the tripperies? Stomach and intestines are known as the trippery. So what happens is they should be cleaned for further use and also for the byproducts processing. There is this chill room and there is this effluent treatment room in which the biochemical oxygen demand should be 75 to 80% and the biochemical oxygen demand is 1500 to 2000 milligram. And then there is offal. What are offals? For example, they are called variety meats and they are the pluck or organ meats. They are the internal organs of a butchered animal. So the offal is any part of the animal except the muscle, meat and bones. and includes the bone marrow, tongue, tails, joint, lungs, and the heart, kidneys, and liver, pancreas. Now, what is the plug? Plug is very important. You can see where there's the plug, and it contains a combination of five organ meats: liver, kidney, spleen, and heart, and pancreas. And the poultry meat is scalded to 65 degrees Celsius. So here we have the byproducts processing. This is also very important. For we have the pancreas. These byproducts are rendered to pancreas. We can obtain the insulin from pancreas. From adrenalines, we can use adrenaline or noradrenaline. From thyroid, we can have thyroxine, triiodothyronine, and thyrocalcitonin. From pituitary, we have growth hormone, thyrotropin, corticotropin, and follicular stimulating hormone, luteinizing hormone, luteotrophic hormone, oxytocin, and antidiuretic hormone. Testicles, we have the testosterone, ovaries, estradiol, progesterone, and relaxin. Intestinal mucous membrane. So, but from the mucous membrane, this is very important. Heparin comes from intestinal mucous membrane. Then we have the major byproducts like blood. From blood, we can obtain the plasma, red cells, blood sausage, blood meal, pet food, glue, foam, fire extinguishers, albumin, and hemoglobin. From bone, we can have the gelatin, oshin, glue, tallow, pet food, dog chew jelly, bone meal, buttons, handles, and fertilizers. From feet, we can have the neats, foot oil. Stomach, we can have edible tripe, pet food, and meat meal. Intestine, we have casings, surgical sutures, heparin, meat meal. And fat, we have edible cooking lard, the fat to cook, shortenings, candy, chewing gum, pet food, adhesives, lubricants, soap, glycerin, liquid detergents. Condemned carcasses, we have the carcass meal, livestock and poultry feed, hides and skin, leather, goods, upholstery, felt, fertilizer, glue, jellies, food products, and gelatin. From heart, tongue, liver, and spleen, we have the edibles, pet food, pharmaceuticals, and sausages. From esophagus, trachea, and bladder, and genital organs and mammary glands, pet food and meat meal. Gallstones, pharmaceuticals, paints, and dyes. So we have the management of abattoirs. First of all, we have the service type under local authorities, which are managed by local authorities. Okay, and the local authorities they employ trained butchers in such abattoirs, and we have the meat inspectors and the local authority, and the fee is levied on private butchers for utilizing the facilities of abattoirs. Okay, they help in byproducts recovering and effluent treatment. Commercial type abattoirs owned by parastatal government agencies are medium to large capacity with facilities for slaughter, dressing, processing, storage, packing, and disposal are incorporated as components of abattoirs. Modern machines for online slaughter, dressing, processing, collection, and utilization of byproducts, chill rooms, freezers, and effluent treatment plants are components of these abattoirs. Service commercial type under cooperative sector. So what the whole thing is that you have the trained butchers, personals, technicians, and a formal layout, but also these are under the cooperative sector. So inspection is here done by the veterinary personnel. Okay. Now we have the commercial type under private sector. This is a private sector. The previous one was done by a cooperative sector, by a government cooperative. Okay, so here we have in the commercial type medium to large size private abattoirs managed on a commercial basis with all modern facilities for slaughter. Periodic supervision by veterinary inspection authorities is essential. Manager is the head and should have in-depth knowledge of every operation being carried out in the abattoir. So principles of construction. What are the principles? We have the absolute need, expensive affair, multiple abattoirs according to regions, slaughter capacity, experienced people, primary growth, economics and facilities. So here we have the hygienic principles. Separation between clean and dirty areas, a unidirectional process flow, away from human dwelling, closer to animal production area, and separate slaughter for different species and different entrance and dispatch area. So here we have livestock unit. One livestock unit is equal to 1 cattle, 2 pigs, 3 calves and 5 sheep. Small abattoir, 1 to 2 acres, 30,000 livestock unit per year. Medium abattoir, 2 to 4 acres up to 50,000 livestock unit per year. Large abattoir, 4 to 6 acres and more than 1 lakh livestock unit. This is the map area. This is the diagram of a slaughterhouse. Here we have the selection of site. It should be away from human dwelling. Away from human dwelling, 45 km from airport, contiguating with uncongested roads, main municipal water supply, electricity supply, facility for municipal sewage, no water logging and free from flood, cheap labor, and you should know that the public transport system will be near, and these pollution sites are free from pollution, and three types of site. There is the urban site in the urban area, it should be avoided, and industrial site it has good facilities, but there are the problems of other industries that might expand there. Rural site there's no availability of basic constraints like light, water, electricity. So the concentration in the construction of habitat, there should be have the licenses by the state animal husbandry authorities, and we must take no objection certificate from our PIDA, and we have the facilities in abattoirs like receiving area, emergency slaughter hall, blood room, processing room, condemned meat room, etc. And there are the edible offals room, and there is the gut and tribe room, storing room, etc. Now the facilities in abattoirs, there should be a room for veterinarians, veterinary laboratory, cold storage room, first aid room, changing room, toilets, canteens, and bins. And the water supply should be, cattle should have the, so for the cleaning we have the water for 82 degrees Celsius at 15 psi. Okay, and in cattle we take about 272 liters, pigs 454 liters, sheep and goat 45 liters. So veterinarians, they have essential for hygiene to avoid damping, rusting of equipments, to avoid accumulation of heat and condensation of moisture, facility of extractors and ventilators, screened openings. In wet areas, slope should be 1 is to 50. Below the rails, valley slope is 1 is to 20. Drain for every 40 square meters. Drainage should be prevent escape of gases, insects, and avoid entry of meat-borne pieces. Lightning. So this is, as I told you before, it was as I told you, for inspection area it was 540 lux, and working area 220 lux, and other area is 110 lux. Floor and wall finishing should be non-slippery, non-absorbent, and non-toxic. Receiving area, it should be non-slippery and it should have adequate space where the vehicles can be unloaded and it can move forward without any beating. Lineage, it provides the rest to accumulate the animal before slaughtered. It is the near to the receiving area. You should have good ventilation, good light facility, and water also to drink. So here we have the sheep. Lineage should be 0.9 meter height and 0.9 meter wide. Okay, and one must be careful that the pigs cannot be housed under one roof, otherwise they will end up fighting with each other. So slaughterhouse, there are two types of system: booth floor system and overhead rail system. Gravity rail system, intermittent power system, continuous power system, and can pack system. First we have gravity rail system. Carcass moves through gravity by the pitch of the rail, and it has the lowest throughput. And then we have the intermittent power system, which has power to 10 to 75 cattle slaughter per hour. Continuous power system, no stoppage. It is more complex and has 40 to 120 cattle per hour slaughter system. Can pack system, this is important, and it is by Canada Packers Limited, is a company, and the cattle is suspended by a runner and 50 to 150 cattle per hour. This is the slaughter rate. And animals which have acute pain, fracture, and tympanitis dislocation, like Downer's cowl syndrome and hip dislocation, they are given an emergency slaughter. So a chilling room, the temperature should be 0 to 4 degrees Celsius and relative humidity 88 to 92%. Okay. Detained meat room. It is adjacent to the slaughterhouse. Condemned meter room is in direct communication with the retained byproducts room. Hide and skin store room. Air fleshing machine for removal of meat, fat, etc. Gut and tripe room. We have the transfer of stomach and intestine through conch conveyor. Paramentier, big drums having rough substance with sodium carbonate and hot water for scalding of rumen, reticulum, etc. to remove mucus lining. Edible fat room, fat obtained by gut and tripe room are stored till dispatch and used for edible purpose. Cutting room is the processing room where you process the meat. Here you can see in the photographs how the meat is getting processed and how the deboning is carried out. And the floors and walls should be smooth and clean. Freezing room, which is a freezer which has a temperature of minus 30 to minus 34 degrees Celsius, so that the meat temperature is minus 18 degrees Celsius. We have the dry goods store for packaging, manure bay to keep the manure separately, and we have the factories for personals, cloak room and shower room and lockers and first aid, communication, canteen, security. Then we have the exclusive veterinarian room for veterinarians and veterinary laboratory, diseases encountered in antemortem examination. Okay, so fine, we'll do this much only today. Thank you.